Hi there, this is Daniel, and this is a special episode of the story of Daniel, the Hanning Family Vacation, Part 1. Of all the memories I have recovered or kept since the accident, this is how I will in the future refer to August 20th, 1987. The day Nixon got to be president one more day, at least in my mind. There are a few that came with more information. Now let me explain. After I was admitted to the hospital on August 20th, 1987, for those of you just coming to the story, I had a typewriter drop on my head in episode 2. For those of you who don't know what a typewriter is, just keep reading. There were several days of evaluation after I got to the hospital. What can I do? It was actually quite entertaining for me. Not quite sure why. It might have been all the attention. The process was investigative, and that might have caused my interest to peak. For whatever reason, I awoke each day with a really good attitude and pushed my limits every hour of every day. I was humbled by all the professionals around me, working hard to help me discover the boundaries of my injury and my abilities. One of the first losses I discovered, I didn't remember people. Oh, I knew who I was. I knew my father and my mother were, and that I had 2 brothers. But the day after I was admitted, a very handsome young guy came in to visit, bearing a get well card. Well, I tried to act like I knew this person. He was a pleasant enough guy in his late teens, early 20s. I was to be 30 that November. Young man was handsome and well dressed. I thought it odd at the time, but he said we were close co-workers and hugged me when he walked in the door. We talked for some time. He told me how Mr. Blank was in the doghouse because Mr. Blank was the one that put the typewriter on top of a 25-foot pile of boxes. Well, this wasn't even on steel racks as it should have been. And he told me how everyone was talking about me at work. He told me blank and blank and blank all send their best. And he held my hand, though ironic, I didn't notice for some time, because he grabbed the hand that was, well, it wasn't working. And he smiled and he sighed a lot. He talked about his father and mother and that they sent their best as well. What television shows I had missed, and his dog was, and how his car was acting up again, and oh, Mr. Blank again was sweating bullets over losing his job. Well, I distinctly remember telling Greg, that was his name. I just remembered that right now. I distinctly remember telling Greg, I hope he does lose his job. Because of him, I'm in a hospital right now, and I can't move my arm or my leg. He looked kind of surprised. Now that I think back on it, for all I know, Greg, Mr. Blank, and I might have been friends outside being co-workers. I had no memory of it. I mean, Greg was a nice guy, and to this day, I have never remembered how he fit into my life. After he left, I never heard from him again. I called and left a couple of messages after I was out of the hospital, but never heard from him again once. That's the point. Memory. That was what I worked the hardest on while I was in the hospital and the rehab center. To this day, I even wonder, and even fear at times, I wonder if I left someone back in that past. Immediate to short term were the big losses, but I found holes all throughout my past. I know that is normal for everyone, but it's become a kind of personal quest of mine to reconstruct as much of my past as I can remember. Also, it is the one loss I hated most. You can take or mess up my ability to walk, my ability to hold stuff, my ability to know that my arm is on fire. Actually, don't laugh, that did happen once. Honest to God, I started laughing when I saw it. I mean, I put it out, but I just started laughing. My arm was on fire. Even my ability to smile straight, you take that away. But my memory, that's personal. Anyway, while I was on my quest to remember my past, there were these deep memories. I learned that memories can come in many forms: sounds, sights, smells, touches, and the most important of all, emotions. Not all come with all these elements. As a matter of fact, few will come with all those elements, all that data. Yes, I was into computers back in 1987. I just spent, but didn't remember till later, 2 years working on an automation of answering services in Beverly Hills. The then Susan Krim owned and operated TELUS Limited of Beverly Hills, to be exact. I just spent 2 years switching over from cord boards to an automated call distribution system. Computer monitors displaying caller information synchronized with the caller ID or the landline number that was coming into the service. So, as I was going on, memories take up space in your head, like gigabytes of data on your hard drive. Now, your brain keeps this data depending on the importance of the event you remember. The more data your head keeps of the event, the more important of memory. Memories of camping with my father and my family came with tons of data. The sound of his voice, the places we went camping, the smell of toasted marshmallows and wood fires, the feel of lake water and the slimy bottom of rivers, how crisp the air was outside the city, and how happy I felt. These truly were multi-input memories, and I loved them coming back to me. I knew that my father and I had become estranged. Honestly, that seems to run in my family. Estrangement. And I knew that my father and I had shared a lot of life in a short period of time, until I stumbled across the family vacation memories. I had never known recall like that before. My earliest memories of family vacations came along with being hot and the smell of smoke, campfire smoke to be exact, and not just during the vacation. I could remember smelling those campfires for days, even a week afterward. I still get nostalgic when I smell a campfire or a wood-burning fireplace. Regardless, where we were going, how long we would be gone, if there were, regardless of any of those things, whether we're using our tent or a rented camper, every single vacation started the same way. Before everything else, there was first staging. This would start anywhere from 1 week to nearly a month before vacation time. Dad and I would take down the tent out of the attic and check the whole thing for rips on the canvas, holes in the screen windows, loose eyelets, ripped or separated seams, holes in the flooring, and just any damage from the previous year. This would take a couple of days, usually a Saturday, Sunday, and he and I would have it all done. Now, with the first step of staging complete, we would move seamlessly into provisioning. My father never did anything half-assed. Prime example is just how we provisioned to go camping. Today's camping family might think of taking the portable television, their iPads, cell phone chargers, maybe a portable DVD player. The years that we were camping, 1963 to 1969, and we took cool stuff. First, there were medical supplies. My father was an X-ray tech and a medic radio operator in the Air Force Reserves. My mother had studied nursing before she met my father. We took snake bite kits, several sizes of gauze bandaging, tourniquets, triple antibiotic creams and lotions, anti-inflammatory creams and lotions, Benadryl in many forms, antibacterial wash. Let's see, back then it was Hexaderm or Hexaclean. It was in a green bottle. It was an old hexylene glycol based cleaner. They don't allow people to use it anymore. Evidently it causes cancer. We take bottles of isopropyl alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, glycerin, sterilized water, sutures and needles, and one very nice field surgical kit my dad brought home for me once. We took enough medical supplies, honest to goodness, to care for the whole family getting into the middle of a small war. We took bottled water, sodas, and juices. We packed foods of all kinds and sizes, fruits and vegetables and potatoes, and those little red devil potted meats, but no pork. My father always packed some extra foods, which nobody but he and I knew about. Each time my father would go out on weekends with the reserves, or for yearly maneuvers, he would bring home rations. Most of them were, well, rations. Nothing one would choose to eat if there was anything else to eat. But one year, oh my, he brought back these cereals. They were like grape nuts, and they tasted just fantastic. This cereal was frigging fantastic. He brought home bunches of boxes over 2 years, and then they ran out before we moved to Pearland. If I were ever to find them and find out what they were, what they were made of, if they still made it, I would eat that cereal every day for the rest of my life. We took blankets and sheets and padding and sleeping bags. We boxed clothes and shoes and socks and underwear too. We would put this all in the back of this Ford station wagon, which was my favorite. Out of all the cars we took for vacation was this Ford station wagon. We had the van in the later years, but the station wagon was the one I remember most. It was the first car we took on vacation that had an air conditioner. It was one of those that hung up from the outside and the passenger side window. This was unfortunate that it sat above my mom, because Mom had terrible allergies. That cold outdoor air with all the pollen and the dust and the crud in the air, it just ended up making her sick every year at vacation. Now, all the waiting was over and we'd arrived at departure day. My father liked to start early to beat the traffic. That meant I woke up about 3 to 4 a.m. to the smell of coffee. Now here's an interesting thing. All my life I've never drank coffee. I've never been able to drink it. It always burned holes in my stomach. But I love the smell of coffee. One of life's little things. Shortly after that, my father would poke his head in the door and say, "Anyone who wants a shower or bath before we leave, and we are going to be in the car for the next 8 hours, get up now." And with that, I was out of bed and halfway to the door before I was out of bed. I usually beat Daryl to the bathroom, and it would be 15 minutes before he was knocking on the door telling me I'd have been there in there a half hour at least. Hey, he can stink if he wants to. I'm going to smell clean for the journey. I would get done and head to the kitchen. I do love routines and rituals. I would no more than make it out of the bathroom to be met with the smells from the kitchen. My father and mother had made cinnamon rolls, and the odor was filling the house. I would sit at the table, the last time I'd do that for a couple of weeks, and ate a roll and drank some milk. I would ask my father, "Are we headed directly out, or do we need to stop and get Freon for the AC?" My father would respond, "No, I got the Freon when I was out late last night filling the tank." That's right, filling the tank late at night. See, all liquids, even gasoline, contract, condense when they cool, and expand when they're hot or warm. So you actually get more gas by buying it at the wee hours of the morning. And my father was going to get that tank as full as he could for as cheap as he could. It kind of set the tone for the whole vacation. So we had staged everything, set up provisions, packed clothes and shoes. Oh, I did miss one part. Yet one afternoon, just a day before we would leave, we would all pack clothes. Underclothes, shoes, sunglasses, hats, thongs, everything one might wear or use as an accessory got packed away. Mom and Dad would be talking over by the kitchen window when Daryl would come in, wet and looking like a wet cat. I never got the impression that my brother Daryl enjoyed the family vacations. I mean, don't get me wrong. If now Daryl were to call me and say, "Yes, Danny, I enjoyed the family vacations," I would take him at his word in a heartbeat. It just didn't seem like Daryl enjoyed the rituals nearly as much as I did. The next ritual was about to take place: the vehicle check. Now, I didn't write about this part, but it would come 6 months to a year before the planned vacation. But the vehicle audit and pre-vacation maintenance was a must in the Hanning family vacation. Now, if memory serves, stop laughing, never once did we ever have a car break down during a vacation. Well, there was, when I was 3 or 4, we had this 50s Buick, a 1951 Chieftain, if I'm not mistaken. It broke down when we were just going on an in-state vacation. Not every single year my father and I would check everything before we took off on an adventure with the whole family. That 1956 Ford Park Lane wagon never ran as well, looked as sharp, smelled as good, and got as cold inside as when it was time to go on the infamous Hanning family vacation. We had started using the portable AC in the old Buick, but it had carried over to the Ford Park Lane. Did I mention that the seat covers in the Ford Park Lane had a Western theme? The whole interior had boots and cattle horns and horseshoes and horses all over it in the faux leather. Western, oh yeah. When you fell asleep and you'd lay down on your face on the back bench seat, you'd wake up with those little Western themed red marks all over your face and arms. Too much fun. So we would pull out, and that was the fun part. Especially the one time we took that tag along instead of using our Baker tent. Okay, tell me truthfully, how many families did you know that had their own family tent? We had a Baker tent, big enough for all of us. I think it was a 6 or an 8 person Baker tent. Had a nice patio flap, flooring, whole 9 yards. Very well maintained mosquito netting over the windows. All the windows had flaps to close them, and they worked well, so it could be tied down in high winds. It was a great tent and well maintained by my father and I. Always wondered what happened to that Baker tent. So, time to back out the camper. Like I said, here we are to backing out the camper. It seemed it took the neighbors across the street, the Bankses, great family by the way, love them dearly, our next door neighbors, and even a passerby or two that would come along to help us get our rig out of the driveway and out onto the road. But that was a different time. People would stop and help back then. We found that on the road too. Most were just other families whose fathers were out looking to make memories for their children too. Nobody had to be mistreated in order for someone else to feel better. So the Ford was out of the driveway. The camper was lined up behind. Mother was getting her purse and a large bag of tissues, maps, lotion, sprays, pills, wipes, and a Bible. and I had usually a small plastic carry-on type bag. In it I kept my graphic novels, comic books, tiny books, crossword puzzles, and an Etch-a-Sketch, along with other things to keep me busy on the road. I don't remember if Daryl took anything in the back of the car. If he did, it was probably books. 2. We were a big family of readers. Everyone read constantly. Thinking back, that is a really fond memory of my family I have. That we all loved to read. I love to read, write, speak, anything with words. So, back to the station wagon. We were all headed into the station wagon, which by now was a nice 63 to 71 degrees inside because my father had run the AC for a good 10-15 minutes before we backed it out. And we pulled off Thrush Street and headed for the Texas Hill Country. This brings us to the end of part 1 of the special episode, The Hanning Family Vacation. Tomorrow, Monday, we should have the conclusion, part 2, of the Hanning Family Vacation. Again, I'd like to ask everyone to please stop by Indiegogo. We've been a featured ad on the front page banner now since Friday morning at midnight. So we've been there right there on the front page every single day. I've been trying to put up lots of content. I've been trying to put up videos and everything. And we haven't raised a single dollar. I'm a little crestfallen, but I'm going to keep putting things up, and we're going to just keep moving forward. Again, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for your continuing support, and may God bless.